Hello and welcome back to Second Take Movies, a podcast where we give movies a second look, a second chance, a second take, if you will. I'm your host, Preston Jenkinson. Today, I have another returning guest, Larry Parks. Yes. Larry, how we doing today?
Good, man. You know, always a pleasure to be here, man. You know, you give me an excuse to watch a movie, so.
Yeah. And today, we're talking about probably one of my favorite movies that I wasn't supposed to watch as a kid, Blade.
Right.
Soon to be remade in the MCU with Mahershala Ali, as we'll talk about later on. I have two reviews, a good and a bad, as we always like to start off with. Good one actually comes from Roger Ebert. It says Wesley Snipes understands the material from the inside out and makes an effective Blade because he knows that the key ingredient in any interesting superhero is not opulence but vulnerability. And a bad review is from TV Guide from Ken Fox is his name. The few good lines go to Chris Christopherson and the ever-amusing Keir, but Snipes' considerable energy is buried under an effectless Terminator-style demeanor.
Shut up, Ken.
That's what did you watch the movie?
Who watches? Well, this is the thing. Who watches an action movie for dialogue?
Well, this movie has like I have three lines that I absolutely loved. And
they did have some pretty good lines.
I'll let you guess my very favorite line. But the first one is when they're at the hospital and they're getting shot at and like kind of after the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Chasing the charred guy. He's like, and the cop starts shooting him. He just looks at, motherfucker, are you out of your mind?
Yeah. That's a good one.
And the second one is when Whistler's hand him that UV light. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you're still heavy. And he's like, but you're so big.
Right.
What do you think my favorite one was?
I think I know what it is, but I can't remember verbatim what he said.
It's at the very end of the movie.
Right. I know.
It was a line ad-libbed by Wesley Snipes himself. It was, some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill.
You're right. The end.
Wow.
Granted, that's how they ended the movie. That's the end right there. That's the last line. I think that may have been. Well, he talked a little bit after, but after that, that's the end of the fight and everything.
Yeah. I got some fun facts before we get into it.
Fun facts. This movie's full of fun facts, man.
Marvel was so broke at the time that they sold this to New Line Cinema for $75,000.
So not only that, so you got to think about this, right? And this is when you talk about Blade, you can't talk about Blade without talking about like how broke Marvel was at the time, right? It was in like late 80s. That's when they realized comics weren't making any money anymore. So they were like, how do we make this? And at the time, I think what they were making, like DC was making Supermans. So then that's where you had all of the other people out there trying to buy movies and stuff. So Marvel, like, we broke. Mm-hmm. Y'all have it. Sony got Spider-Man. Sony got X-Men. So Sony got a good bulk, and then they were selling off everything else they could. I mean, who knows about Blade? Well, we'll sell Blade too. Why not? They sold Black Panther.
And another fun fact is,
go ahead.
The reason Wesley Snipes was doing is what became Blade is right. Because he was developing a Black Panther movie at the time. And it fell through. Yes.
Awesome,
and
right?
Before Wesley Snipes played Blade, there were three actors that were considered. Mm-hmm. Denzel Washington, LL Cool J, and Lawrence Fishburne.
Also, before they made Blade, they was like, can we make Blade white?
Of course they did.
Of course they did, right? Is there a way we can make them white?
You know, Denzel Washington is only one of the highest grossing actors of the last decade or so, you know.
This is another funny part about it, right? They were gonna make Blade white, but this was in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
They were gonna make Blade white. Blade was going to be a Western. So it's going to be like a Western vampire.
Vampires in
the Wild West.
The Wild West. Which is a good idea for a movie, but that's not Blade.
No, it's not Blade at all. So yeah.
Yeah, and Marvel was literally selling office furniture at this point in time. Like, it was the 90s, and they like you said, they sold X-Men and Fantastic Four to Fox.
Fantastic Four, yeah.
They sold Spider-Man to Sony. In the comics, Blade did not have any of the powers he does in this movie. he would basically, I think the only thing was he couldn't be turned when he was bitten. But after this movie came out, they eventually retconned everything and just basically turned Blade into Wesley Snipes.
Pretty much Demolition Man all over again.
But yeah, this movie opens up with, and I hate starting out every episode like that, but that's just what it is. We start with this guy who's picked up this random woman, and they're heading to a rave in the back of a meatpacking plant.
Back of a meatpacking plant.
Yeah, which, fellas, if step inside a meatpacking plant with a woman, just turn around and run the other way.
Let me tell you this. Let's be quite frank on this a little bit. If you go into any place that doesn't look like there's a club in there, but then there is a club in there in the very back, like, you probably shouldn't be there, you know?
Yeah, that's no good.
Like, it's either like you're either gonna die there, or you're gonna contract something there.
Let's start thinking with our brains, fellas.
Yeah, there's nothing good happening in there, guys. You might have the time of your life, but there's really nothing good happening in there.
Because as soon as they end up back there, you know, he gets tossed around and he's like getting disoriented and stuff, and then, you know what, a blood rave, because you know it's the late 90s.
And people love blood, and it's a bunch of vampires.
You know, where everyone's dressed in black and leather and black, you know, because it's pre-Matrix, post The Crow. If anyone has ever seen The Crow,
he did definitely dress like Matrix.
Yeah,
Neo.
like this, I would say, inspired a lot of the look of. I mean, this was every movie at the time almost. Like, yeah, it even happened well into the X-Men with the black leather. Like,
back in the 90s, black leather was
the coolest thing to wear, I guess. Was like in the late 90s, early 2000s was black leather and trench coats and sunglasses at night.
Right.
But this guy eventually almost gets sacrificed, and then our hero shows up, Blade, with a shotgun full of metal spikes. And then
good start.
I wouldn't even call Blade a hero necessarily.
Oh, Blade's definitely not a hero.
No, he does not care about collateral damage at all.
So this is the thing, right? You know, you said this off air before we started. You know, saying Blade, the movie Blade. Preston likes to mute me every now and again. It's cool.
Yeah, I'll hit the wrong button.
but yeah, like you said, like it eventually goes off script, and like if you the comics of Blade, if you look at the comic of Blade, like Blade is not a hero. I don't even think Blade's just a vigilante. Blade just hates vampires. Yeah. And the reason why he hates vampires is because the movie starts off. So the movie starts off with his mom, with him being born, his mom busting into the hospital in the emergency room, and like she's been bit, right? The comic, the way that it works is that, you know, his mother is in labor with him as she's hiding out at this whorehouse, and she goes into labor. And then as she's having the baby, they realize she needs a doctor. And Deacon Frost, who is the antagonist in the movie Blade, is also in the comic, and he plays the role of a doctor in the comic. And they think he's a doctor. And as she's giving birth, he's like, you know what? Bump it. I'm going to suck your blood while you're giving birth to your son. Which, while he's sucking her blood, he's passing through the vampire enzymes to Blade, which eventually the mom dies. But Blade survives because now he's like part vampire. Yeah. So now Blade's entire vendetta is, vampires killed my mom, so I'm going to kill all vampires, and I hate y'all.
Also, another fun fact, in the comics, he's British.
Yes. Blade is British. Blade is British.
Like, again, until Wesley Snipes came along, and then they just...
Blade is like, in the comics, Blade's like Dracula's apprentice and everything, you know? Like,
yeah, it's weird.
He's a very colorful character.
Which, now that we're getting Moon Knight on Disney Plus, we can start getting into that weird stuff on the MCU. So. Yeah. And then he kills all the vampires, basically. Goes like, Wesley Snipes and the fighting and the action in this movie is damn near perfect.
Yes, it's pretty good.
Wesley Snipes put, like, as crazy as he is as a person, he puts in the work, because I think, isn't he like a trained martial artist, like for real?
I can believe it after all the movies he's done in the past.
Yeah, like
I won't put it past him.
I think he did all the fighting and all the stunts and everything in this movie.
What was this, 97?
They probably shot it in 97 because it came out in 98 sometime.
Oh, you want to know why it came out in 98?
Why?
That's why it came out in 98, man. So they wanted to release it in 97, right? They did the premiere for Blade. You know how most movies, they do the premiere for it, and then like after the premiere, the movie comes out, right?
Right.
The premiere was so bad that they were like, nah, we're going to take like another 6 months to like they changed so many different scenes. Like they cut scenes out. Like if you watch the DVD, I think if you got the DVD, or nowadays you ain't gotta have the DVD, you can go on YouTube and look at like Blade deleted scenes, like the ending scene, like the ending scene where like him and Deacon Frost were fighting with the swords.
Yeah, he was supposed to be like a red tornado.
Yeah, he was a red tornado of blood. And that was how it ended. And I don't know, like I said, you can look it up on YouTube, but it was that, and it was just a bunch of different other scenes that they had, and they ended up cutting scenes out and then adding scenes. But like they said, they did the preview, the red carpet for the movie, and they said everybody left that movie like, what the hell did we just watch? So New Line was like, yeah, we might want to hold off on releasing this because it's
something else.
$45 million. I think you would want to like kind of figure something else out, man.
But this movie ended up making like 130 million, something like that.
That's what created. That's why, like I was telling you, like people that love the MCU, like Blade was the reason that the MCU was created. Like everybody, like the MCU started with Iron Man. No, it started with Blade. Because when Marvel was like, we're going to sell all this because we're going to see money in making movies. But
people like to point back to like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man and the X-Men for like saying that's why we have Marvel. No.
No, you got it because of Blade.
These kids are so spoiled. Like, this is the only thing I had as a kid.
Yeah. Blade didn't make billions. He didn't make Avengers money, but he at least made enough money. He made enough money that Marvel said, oh, there might be something in this.
Yep.
Which is silly because if you think about it, man, like think about movies, man. We had Star Wars out then.
Yeah.
We had we had Alien, you had, Predator, stuff like that. So you have like supernatural, different type of movies. For one of the biggest movies that y'all can make as a comedy, be like, at least we're gonna hold on to this, is Spider-Man. Why would you hold on to that?
Yeah.
Like, like, hey, if we put this in a movie, but I guess they didn't think like, a dude in a pajama suit, because that's probably what he would have looked like. Yeah. He would have looked like the way Tobey Maguire looked when he went to go wrestle. that would have been Spider-Man's outfit.
Definitely. So he gets down to the last vampire, and he kills the rest of them, and for some reason like bolts this one against the wall and sets him on fire. I guess so it would lead into the next one, because we pick up, Blade slinks off and the cops come in, and the next thing we get introduced to, she's so forgettable, I can't even remember her name. Was it Karen?
Karen Jensen.
Karen Jensen, who is a hematologist, and her and her coworker, I think her coworker is like the medical examiner, and asked her to come in and look at something, and it's this burned corpse, which is the vampire played by Donald Logue. And then he comes back to life and bites the medical examiner and just starts running crazy throughout the place. And then, of course, Blade shows up. I guess he's like a bloodhound for vampires. I don't know.
I told you, he hates vampires.
He does.
Like this is the most, I don't want to say Uncle Tom, but it's like the most reverse, like, I hate
what I am.
Basically. I'm a vampire and I hate being a vampire. Yeah. So my next resort is I'm gonna kill all y'all.
Well, the big thing is he's all of their strengths and none of their weaknesses, except the thirst for blood.
Yeah,
I would call that a weakness. But
he could go outside in the daytime.
Yeah, he can walk outside daytime, no problem. But apparently they can with a special sunscreen. But that is later. So another fun fact, in this scene, Donald Logue, when he gets punched in the face by Wesley Snipes, got his jaw dislocated. And he's in that burn. That's the actor under the prosthetic makeup, like the burn victim. So they had to take him to a real hospital like that.
So it's not like, yeah, you're in the hospital. Let's take you to a real hospital.
Yeah. Karen Jensen gets knocked out, and I guess Blade takes care of all the guy escapes in the ambulance and scurries off into the night, and then for some reason Blade she gets bit. She gets bit by
he bites her, and then Blade cuts off my man's hand.
Cuts off his hand, and then stands over her and just decides to take her to his hideout, which is probably one of the worst hideouts I've ever seen. Because anyone can just walk in there. You know?
Yeah, I guess you're right, but I mean, it might be one of those like hide in plain sight things.
Yeah, it's like, because he just drives his car all the way through there. And it's like just an open space. It's like a warehouse next to an old train yard.
I think honestly one of the worst hideouts may have been the Punisher. On not the Netflix Punisher, but like the original like Punisher movie that probably came out here.
It was like
he stayed. It was an apartment. Like anybody could walk in there. Actually, somebody did walk in there.
Yeah,
and destroy the apartment.
And in Blade 2, there's like 2 or 3 vampire ninjas that sneak into their hideout with Norman Reedus and Chris Christopherson.
Yeah.
Did she find a way to cure herself?
She found something
That's the big
out,
plot
man.
point.
I think, yeah. So her thing was, if you were not born a vampire and were turned a vampire, there was a cure that I can put into my system that can take care of me, and I won't have the vampire in me anymore. Gotcha. But if you were born a vampire, as Blade was, we need to find a cure to get the vampire out of you.
Right.
It's like The Walking Dead with vampires. Like, we want to figure out how to cure this pandemic, but it's not really considered a pandemic. I think I would be cool being a vampire, to be completely honest, if I ever had to become one.
Except, murdering people, but
it's not really murdering. Like, let's look at it this way. All right, so look at it. If you had to be a vampire, right?
Yeah.
If you had to be a vampire,
okay,
and let's say they're real, they're out here. It's like, all right, the vampires are gonna feed on somebody,
right?
But why don't we just feed on people on death row?
That's a good point.
So you're gonna have murderous vampires out there that's just gonna murder vampires for no reason, and then that's where you got like the vampire allegiance that comes and helps out, and they kill him. But
oh yeah, definitely. If a good percentage of the population become vampires, like, they're not going to be hiding around in some boardroom like they are in this movie. Like, I know people. they're going to try to run the entire planet.
They're going to come out. The only bad thing about being a vampire is that I couldn't go out in the daytime.
Yeah. I mean, well, you just, change to the night shift.
Hey, how do I do my banking?
That's a good question.
What if I need to go to the bank? What if I need to go to the doctor?
Well, you're a vampire. You won't need to.
But then this is what happened. You'll have to have vampires that we can no longer really just be vampires. Now we have to be professional vampires.
Yeah.
So then it's going to be like, hey, are you a vampire? And you can't be a vampire that works day shifts. So like, hey, you're a doctor. Like, I aspire to be a doctor, but all I can be is a night doctor. Yeah.
There would be a vampire economy, basically. There would be doctor vampires. There'd be, vampire cleaners. There'd be, who would specialize in getting out blood. But we're in the hideout, and we're introduced to Chris Christopherson, who's just a ornery mentor, basically. Just the old guy that found Blade when he was a kid,
murdering people in the alley.
Right? Yeah, when Blade was a 13-year-old mixed vampire, basically, and basically trains him and teaches him how to become which I want Wesley Snipes to play Whistler in the new
that'd be pretty cool
Blade movie.
That'd be pretty cool.
Like,
Blade's dramatics killed me. Wesley Snipes' dramatics when he walked around. Like, there was one point in the movie, like, he turned around and it was like a very sharp turn, and I think he had to like move out the way real fast because I think he was about to run into like the desk or something.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, like, you're being super dramatic now, dog. Calm down. Calm down, Wesley.
I mean, the look of Blade is great. Like the vest and the jacket and the sword that's like right in the center of his back.
Yeah.
And his coat has a hole that just lets the handle just there, and his hair is symmetrical, the tattoos. It's a great look. But we learned that, and then we send Karen on. Also, if Whistler gets attacked later on in this movie, if he doesn't die then, he was gonna die at some point. Like when he's putting gas in that car.
Yes.
It splashes everywhere. He's lighting a cigarette. Like he doesn't care.
I was so upset that I was concerned at this point of the movie. Like this movie came out in 97, 98. But I'm still watching it as like he putting the gas in there, and as a responsible adult, I'm like, dude,
yeah,
like you can't light a cigarette there, man.
Like, you're not even supposed to look at your phone at a gas pump. Like,
it's not only you might not kill yourself, you might kill everybody.
Yeah, you're gonna kill everybody out here. Like you're gonna just explode this entire operation.
Right.
But while all this is going on, we're introduced to our villain, Deacon Frost. I love this villain. Like he's the cocky young kid in the legion of Eastern European vampires in a dark boardroom.
Who their first selection for Deacon Frost was supposed to be?
Who?
Jet Li.
Really?
You know why Jet Li wasn't in Blade?
Was he doing something else?
He felt like Lethal Weapon 4 was a better movie to do.
I mean, honestly.
It was. It was.
If we're being honest, yeah.
Yeah, they was like, hey, man, we want you to do Blade. He was like, nah, I got Lethal Weapon 4. And they was like, oh, okay, cool.
This guy is played by... I had it pulled up, but then I clicked away accidentally.
I couldn't remember his name.
Stephen Dorff.
There you go.
Who ironically was in the most recent season of True Detective with Mahershala Ali.
Ooh.
So there's your 6 degrees, people.
Do you think that helped them get the role in Blade?
Yeah, they are. I'm sure they talked about it when they were, because I think it was announced at that point when they were shooting it.
I don't think I could see anybody else other than Ali playing Blade.
I don't think Mahershala would have asked him about Blade, like.
Yeah.
Because the way he got it was he basically walked into Kevin Feige's office and said, "I want to play Blade."
I want to play Blade.
Yeah,
okay.
Basically.
Cool.
He walked in with his 2 Oscars and said, "I want to do Blade." Kevin Feige was like, "You know what? Okay." He's probably the first person that's ever done that, but because they're very particular about what.
But like I said, I don't see who else would have played him.
Exactly. Like
I don't think you have anybody else that play him.
Denzel's too old. Like.
Yeah, Denzel's old.
If Michael B. Jordan hadn't have been Killmonger at this point, maybe him.
You know who could have been? I if it wasn't Ali that I could see doing it, but unfortunately, like he is now passed and no longer with us. Michael K. Williams.
Michael K. Williams,
the guy with the scar on his face.
Yes, that would have been good.
That would have been a great role for Blade, like Blade, and I got this cut on my face too.
Maybe Denzel's son, John David Washington.
Yeah, but he kind of talks he don't.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't have the voice. Like
he talks a lot like Denzel, and I don't want to hear Denzel in Blade. That guy, he wants to talk, and like Blade doesn't talk a lot, so he would have ruined it.
Yeah, but yeah, probably. So Mahershala's probably the only, like he's tall. I think he's tall enough, and I think he's imposing enough.
He's got the look.
Yeah, definitely. I want him to do that haircut again. I mean.
You know, they just might. They have to. You have to. It's symbolic now.
It's Wesley Snipes just made the most iconic look of anything. But basically, the older vampire, the pure blood vampires, basically that are in this boardroom, because that's basically what it's just a dark boardroom with a bunch of Eastern European looking vampires, and you know he's the rebellious youngster who's not a pure blood.
Can we think, even though at the same time, like you would think, like out of everything that's going on in the world, like, all right, yeah, we're vampires. We got to band together. They have racism even amongst vampires.
Oh, they have classism and racism within.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I was born a vampire, but you were turned into a vampire. Yeah. So you ain't even a pure blood.
Yeah. You're running those blood rave clubs. Like, you know, we want to be, again, we go back to, if there were vampires, like they would not be hiding in the dark. I don't think. Like, we would know about it.
The old school ones probably would have.
Yeah, they were like...
But we would have been like the newest. We would have been the Deacon Frost vampires.
Yeah. It's like, they would have all, like, you know, hide in the dark and not expose ourselves to humanity and blah, 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 blah. Well, I mean, gotta eat.
Yeah.
What was that Ethan Hawke movie where he played a vampire? Like, the world had been basically taken over by vampires and we all lived in the dark.
Are you talking about... No, I was about to say something stupid, and it's not Ethan Hawke, but
that's why Google is your friend. Daybreakers.
Daybreakers. There you go.
Well, that's a net episode I'm going to do. It's got a 57% on Metacritic.
I was going to say Lost Boys.
That is Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, that's why I knew I was going to be wrong on that one.
Yeah, I think that was made in the 80s.
I love that movie.
So basically, they're like, you need to quit with these clubs. You're going to expose our way of life. And he's basically like, these people are our food. Who gives a fuck? You know?
But to think about it, though, man, like, how many, like, what are they doing with people? Like, this is why I never understood vampires. Like, how do they decide, like, who lives and who turns into a vampire? Like, how much blood do I take to kill versus how much blood do I take to turn?
How do you measure, like, do you just have a sense as a vampire as to how much you've already taken?
Yeah, and then if I do take enough to kill you, like, what do I do with the body?
Well, there's a deleted scene in this movie where he has, like, a walk-in freezer just full of dead bodies. And
oh, because I was about to say that will raise some sign of, like, hey, all these bodies got holes in their neck.
Yeah. So, but again, if we lived in the world with vampires, people would just be walking around pale with, holes in their necks.
Yeah.
Because there, as is brought up in this movie, there are familiars, which are humans that work for the vampires and are basically pets and food, and it will there's like an understanding, like a master and a servant, and at some point they'll be turned into a vampire. Because
I want to become a vampire. I want to be part of this secret committee of vampires.
And the way we find that out is let's get back to Deacon Frost. After that, I don't know if it's after that or not, but we find out that his goal is to awaken this blood god. He's in the library running this program, this very 90s program on a computer, and listening to what sounds like house techno.
Yeah.
Some dubstep, early dubstep, I don't know. And it's like this very 90s virtual reality thing that shows you get a certain amount of, I guess, royal vampires in a room, put some blood on their head, and get some blood from somebody. I guess they need Blade's blood. I think
they needed the blood of the, I don't know. They never understood. They never explained why they needed Blade's blood. They were just like, they need you there, Blade. Don't go.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because the movie's named Blade, I guess is why they needed his blood. Because that's basically what activates it at the end, is all their blood, and then the blood drops on him. Basically, they just need a lot of blood. It's vampires. They need blood to awaken the blood god, or the blood god to go into Deacon, I guess. But
I don't even understand what the blood god was supposed to do.
It gives him powers to regenerate. I don't know.
Because the blood god went into Deacon, and Deacon lived after the blood god went into him. He lived for probably another 5 minutes, and then it was
basically it gives you the power to click clack swords pretty good.
Yeah, that was one scene. Oh yeah, that's what I said. That was the scene wasn't in the movie. They added that.
Yeah, after the effects of the blood tornado didn't work.
Click clack, click clack.
But we go back to Blade and Karen, and Blade just has a complete disregard for people and pedestrians.
Yes.
He turns in this alley and there's people walking down the sidewalk. He's just like, fuck it, I'm going.
I'm turning down this alley. Like, I'm going to beat up this cop in the middle of the street while people are walking down. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull my gun out and try to shoot the cop while he's running.
Right, yeah, because there's one of the familiars is a cop, and she's like, oh, you used me for bait? And he's like, get over yourself.
Let alone it's 1998 and a black man is pointing a gun at a cop as the cop's running away. Yeah. Like, when does
beating the death out of a cop at his truck?
When does that make sense? Why does this make sense right now?
Yeah, when I was sitting there watching it last night, I was like, okay.
Okay.
We're probably in Los Angeles in like the 90s.
Yeah. Why you say that? So if you look at it, it's up north somewhere. So a lot of people will determine, but all right, they're in New York. Yeah. They're in like Boston. No. Blade was born and he terrorizes vampires in Detroit, Michigan. That's where they went. Motor City.
Is that where this movie was shot?
Yeah.
Probably because they could get it so cheap.
We need somewhere we can go that's already run down. Motor City. Go. So yeah.
But We find out that he was transporting blood, and they're like, who you transporting it for? And then he gets away, and like we said, the cop runs off, and Blade just tries to fire into, like, the cop hasn't even cleared the crowd yet, and he's like, I'm going to fire in this group. I don't care. I'll kill people. I don't care. Who cares? So we sit and wait, and he comes back, and they follow him, in which I can only describe as the director must have been on cocaine or something, because the scene where they're chasing him, and it's like, oh God, like everything's just moving quick, like they just sped up the image real fast. The guy that directed this, the last thing he did was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, just to give people an idea of this guy's
which gets
work.
a lot of mixed reviews, and I've watched it a lot, and
yeah,
I'm a mixed review as well.
I'm like, ooh, this is bad.
I don't know if it's good or bad at this point. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, it's good. Then
it made Sean Connery retire.
Yeah.
Because at that point, he had turned down The Matrix and Gandalf because he didn't understand it. And he was like, I don't understand this either, but a hit's a hit, which this wasn't.
What happened was, I think there were a bunch of movies. I think, yeah, like you say, he turned down The Matrix that came out before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he turned down those movies, and he was like, dang, I missed those movies. And then he was like, this is going to be around the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, I got to take it. I've missed too many good opportunities. Yeah. And he was, I don't understand this damn movie. You know what?
Apparently, I don't know how to pick it anymore. So
the business has passed you by, Sean. I'm sorry, brother. It made sense when you could just walk outside and say, I'm James Bond, and, look real cool. But now it's a lot of CGI, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
He couldn't understand. He couldn't understand Lord of the Rings. He was like, I don't know what this is.
Dude, bro, you probably wrote the book.
Yeah, like you were alive when it was written. Like it was a very popular book when you were probably a kid.
You don't read?
Oh, rest in peace, Sean Connery.
Right.
Even though he was a terrible person.
Damn it, Sean. So after this they go.
He goes back to Deacon Frost's high rise. That's what
he goes back to the. No, he goes to the little club, delivers the blood. Blade follows him to the club.
Bunch of Japanese vampires.
Yeah, he follows him to the club, and then Blade just walks in and just starts beating up people regardless.
Oh yeah, like he just like walks in, like doesn't even try to sneak in.
They're doing karaoke. He just walks in and starts beating up people. People are looking like, oh no, what's happening over there? And then as Blade walks out of the screen, they be like, okay, well, I guess it's not a big deal. Let's continue watching karaoke.
Yeah.
And then Blade goes back there and starts beating up the police officer and gets him to admit like where the secret room is, because this is another place where there's a secret room in the refrigerator.
Is this where we find the big fat vampire?
Yeah, the big lardy vampire.
Yeah, and it's kind of implied that this vampire this vampire is over 800 pounds probably.
My 800-pound life.
Yeah.
Vampire.
And it's implied that this vampire ate babies. So the cop goes back to Deacon Frost's high-rise condo penthouse where everyone's having there's parties going on all the time.
And I don't think Deacon's a bad guy. I think Deacon just wants to have a good time.
Yeah. He just wants to murder a lot of people and party.
Yeah, that is what it is. I mean, he's a vampire. Like, he wants to embody the role of a vampire. He's like, you turned me into a vampire.
But I think what makes him a bad guy is he wants to bring a demon god into the world, basically.
So this is Deacon's real major plan, and they talk about this in the comics. But what Deacon wants to do is not really murder a lot of people, but he wants to turn everybody into a vampire.
Pretty much.
He's getting tired of the world being the world. He's getting tired of hiding from the world. Yeah. So the only way he can not hide from the world is to create the world to be the same as him. Do you understand how, well, I guess they got the sunscreen. I was about to say how boring the world would be if everybody just came out at nighttime. Yeah.
I wonder if they can be inside and actually look at the sun. What's the rules on this?
I don't know, because they had some natural light coming in when they were in that secret layer, the old guys. I was like, is that a light or is that natural light?
Right.
I guess you could do a lot of underground stuff.
Yeah. Deacon Frost kills that guy. He has like a weird make out with one of the
girls put blood on her face.
He's obsessed with rubbing blood all over himself. Like,
he's a vampire. Why wouldn't he?
Got a weird, like, well, I don't, I love steak. I don't rub it on my face when I eat it.
Hey, it is what it is, brother. Some people like milk and they pour milk over their body. So it's a fetish.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own kinks, We all can't be perfect.
We don't kink shame on this podcast. Oh, I hope my mom doesn't listen to this.
It's okay, Mom.
So yeah, we go back to the hideout and she comes up with this anticoagulant stuff that mixes with vampire blood and it basically just destroys all their cells as she's looking under a microscope and finding out. So she creates a bunch of those little things for Blade and he used them as a weapon. And then I guess he was gone at this point or he was somewhere else and she got kidnapped and they killed Whistler.
Yeah, he was in the park saving Asian babies being thrown through hot dog stands.
He gets taken away and he goes to the park where Deacon Frost has he's got a little girl and he's got his special sunscreen on, and we get the first bullet time we've ever seen in a movie, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Pre The Matrix.
Pre-Matrix. The Matrix said, you know what? That's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll just highly improve on it. And
then they go and they kill Whistler.
Yeah, and we find Whistler in like a bloody heap, basically, which...
Karen Jensen gets kidnapped.
Yeah, of course.
And then, of course, he says, Blade, don't go find him. And what does Blade go do?
Which
goes and finds him.
There was a missed opportunity in that scene where he's gearing up to go to the vampire place. It's all somber music and he's just, I was, the music didn't seem right. It should have been like a
that wasn't Blade. That was Deacon Frost music.
But instead we get a.
You had to know Blade was not a violent person. That's what they wanted you to know.
Okay.
They wanted you to know. I only do this because I have to.
I only kill vampires and fire indiscriminately into crowds because I have to.
Yeah, well, he's not violent. He's misunderstood, man.
He just has a lot of weapons that are, severely lethal.
He just said he didn't want to be born this way, and y'all made him this way, so now he's going to take it out on y'all.
Like Lady Gaga said, I was born this way.
Yeah.
And so we get to the third act of the movie, which is pretty much everything from the start to finish of when he throws that motorcycle into the building. Beyond is just great mayhem and fighting and whatnot. Like, there's this one part, I think it's after he drains Karen Jensen's blood to get revived after being kidnapped, but he's doing like swing kicks with this guy. They just one after the other just does a swing kick. I'm like, what are we doing?
They want to see it. They want to see who was the most athletic person in there.
I guess, but so he fights through all this and he gets kidnapped, and for some reason Karen Jensen gets thrown down this pit and we reunite with the guy, the medical examiner at the beginning of the movie, and he's got like a British accent, the accent of like an old British lady.
Yeah, I guess.
It was weird. It was weird to me. I don't know.
I was more focused on just why was he down there? Like, is this where you send the reject vampires?
Must have been like the one that didn't quite turn like we wanted.
Like we thought y'all would turn.
Ooh, he was. I think he got like cut up real bad and beaten, but he was still alive because he's a vampire. And
there is a side effect. There's
he's one of those
side effect to turning vampires. You may come out deformed.
It's like a zombie vampire.
Yeah, so we're gonna throw you in this pit.
We keep those in the pit.
Y'all go in the pit down here. To mind you, there's only one down there, so I guess he's the only one out of all the deformed vampires. Like, I don't know, man.
Big shocking twist. We find out Deacon Frost was the the vampire that bit his mom while he was being born, and she shows up and says, "I'm a vampire, Blade, and I love it."
And Blade's like, "Mama."
You ain't mama. And he ends up, they have this, long drawn. I think they have a fight at one point, and
he kills his mom.
He does kill his mom with a bone.
His mom comes after Karen has been there to revive him. And if my thing is, if she was going to kill him, why didn't she kill him while he was weak? Because then Karen was like, "Hey, I'm gonna bring you back, so suck my blood, Blade, so you can get your energy back." And he's like, "All right, I'll do it." And then after he pretty much sucks her dry, and she does say no.
And she lives through that, by the way.
She does live through that, and she said no, and Blade consented. So therefore, it is not, I guess, sexual assault now because Blade consented to that. Mm-hmm. So she said no. Blade stops, and she falls to the ground, and then Blade gets back up and screams, and then his mom comes out, and now she wants to kill him when she could have killed him when he was weak.
Right.
Yeah, waste of time.
Well, I think they needed to drain his blood for the blood god ceremony, I guess.
I don't know.
I think they could have just got the blood of anybody, but Blade was there. So
yeah, Blade was in the mold of the thing he was in, fit Blade perfectly. Yeah. He was the one guy.
And my favorite weapon of his is that garrote wire he uses once he's got all the blood. And it's a great moment, too. He just slides this thing out, and the whole joke through the whole movie is Donald Logue has been like trying to find a hand, and he finally gets his hands back, and he's finally completely back together at the end of the movie, and Blade just like freaking chops his head off.
He ain't coming back from that one, big
and
dog.
Disintegrates. And then just like in every other Blade movie after it, it's like the most 90s thing. The guy had been wearing Blade sunglasses, and they fly in the air, and Wesley Snipes catches them and puts them on, and it's like,
Blade is back, y'all. It's Blade time.
And then he just plows through all these vampires
as Deacon Frost waits.
Yeah,
because Deacon Frost is the blood god now.
Yeah.
And just waits on the 101, which I don't understand. Like in movies like this, like I've always wondered, like in movies like with Jackie Chan, Jet Li, karate movies, stuff like this. It's like, why do you wait your turn to die? Like if we all like bum rush him, I'm pretty sure we can take him out.
Yeah, especially in like the the Ninja Turtle movies. Like the Foot Clan, they just all hold back and wait.
Oh, my turn. After you see about 2 or 3 of them like getting knocked out, like by just one person by trying to do it themselves, it's all right. Let's all run in together right quick, man. Like he can't kill us all. Another
thing that gets me with just action movies in general, people are hiding behind stuff, and people are just constantly firing at the barrier between that the person is hiding behind. Like save your bullets.
Like the Matrix.
Yeah, and when people shoot at people. Or shoot at something in movies and can't penetrate it or damage it or anything, and they just keep going. I'm like, why you saw it didn't work the first time? What makes you think it's going to work on 130th time?
Sometimes common sense isn't common when it comes to shooting guns.
Yeah, that's why I love the John Wick movies. One and done.
Until John Wick, what's the last one that came out?
3.
John Wick 3, when those dudes came in there with like the metal all over them, and John Wick was like, "I'm gonna shoot him in the head," and they were like, that ain't working, big dog.
Yeah, and he goes back and gets the shotgun with the armor piercing rounds or whatever. That was pretty great.
That was
such a good movie. But Blade gets his sword back and tries to chop up, stab, kill
Deacon Frost,
but
he's the blood god.
He cut him a bunch of times, and then his torso reattaches with bad
blood.
CGI blood. Oh, his arm reattaches. He's like, "You can't kill me, Blade." And it's my turn. And he moves really fast and just that reaction. Wesley Snipes has great reactions in this movie because he does the Deacon Frost does the quick little zoom thing, and Wesley's like, "Oh," and then gets punched back.
Wesley is an entertaining character himself in this movie.
Yeah. And So the little syringes that Karen Jensen had made, it was on Blade's arm when he first started through this whole gauntlet of people.
Mm-hmm.
And Deacon thinks that's his serum, and so he just throws it away. And somehow it ends up on in a crack of a ledge somewhere.
Yeah, man, that was the thing, man. Like that stuff is made out of glass. Like, why didn't it just break?
Right. I know it was in that little casing and stuff, but I mean,
it's
I
glass.
think it would any kind of shock would break the
glass.
Yeah,
he threw it off the very top floor. Like if y'all haven't seen Blade, like when he threw the glass vials down, they probably were on what's equivalent to like maybe like an 8-story, 10-story building, and they were on the 10th floor. And then he throws it down, and it just wedges itself between these cracks on the 2nd floor, I would say, and they don't break.
Yeah,
good job.
But it's also established early on that Blade has this trick handle in his sword that if you don't hit the switch quick enough, like 4 little blades will come out and
chop your hand off.
And that happens to Donald Logue in this movie. That's why he loses the other hand later on in the movie, is because he tries to grab the thing and it cuts his hand off. But so Blade throws his sword and he's like, "Oh, you missed!" And then of course the little handle's doing this little timer countdown, and the blades clink out and the syringes drop. And another great moment, Wesley Snipes just spins around in this little pose and catches it behind his back.
Yeah, that's a Black Widow type stuff.
Which, if you pay attention to it, like in that wide shot, you can see the stuff falling over here, and Wesley Snipes' hand is probably like over here.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll make it look good on camera.
We'll do another shot where you show it. So he throws all chucks all the vials into Deacon Frost, and he bubbles up, because what these things do is they expand the vampire so much that they just, which is actually, it was a pretty good effect on the first 2 that happened. They bubble up and swell up so bad that they just explode all over the place.
Out of blood.
Yeah, and that's what ends up happening to
Deacon Frost,
the once and future blood god Deacon Frost, and our hero.
I hope Marvel does a very, very better job at Deacon Frost.
I hope so too.
I feel like Deacon Frost. This is my thing about Deacon Frost. Deacon Frost is a good villain. I like Deacon Frost as a villain.
Yeah,
I enjoyed him. I felt like he played like, what I'm saying, what's worse than vampires are already bad, but what's worse than a bad boy vampire? Ooh, this is a vampire that doesn't go by the rules. There are rules to go by, but he doesn't go.
He's the bad boys of the bad boys.
He's the rebel. So yeah. I like that. But then when it gets to the end of Blade, like you're expecting so much. Like Blade spent like this entire movie looking for Deacon Frost.
Yeah.
So I expect when I get to the end, like, all right, Deacon Frost is about to show me something, especially now that he's been intertwined with the blood god. Mm-hmm. So now I'm like, oh, now it's really gonna be hard, Blade. It's gonna be hard for you to kill this guy. And it's like 2 mineven later, it's like he's dead. It's like, all right, man, y'all could have gave me something else, man. Like he could have like at least like scratched Blade or something.
Yeah.
Like he didn't even hurt the guy.
But yeah, he's supposed to be this powerful god, but basically this end fight is them clacking swords together.
Yeah, like this god was like, hey, I can do this, but I did not think about having these little enzyme vials you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't count for that one. My bad. I'll be back, y'all.
So our hero saves the day, him and Karen. Somehow Karen is still alive. I don't think she should still be alive at the end of this movie.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But maybe Blade knows the right equation to taking out the amount of blood that can revive him.
He drained her pretty good.
He lost a lot of blood, and he drained her pretty good too.
Yeah. But in another deleted scene at the end of this movie, it was supposed to end just like it does here, but when they climb out, they see another figure in the distance, and that was supposed to be Morbius, the living vampire.
Ooh.
But who is being played by Jared Leto in what looks to be a not good movie.
Listen, man. Marvel at this point, they have gained my respect because every movie.
This is Marvel this is Sony in association with Marvel. With Jared Leto.
Okay.
It's just like the Venom movies. It's Sony in association with Marvel.
Okay.
Not Marvel Studios. You got to look for the Marvel Studios.
Now you're right. Now you're on the. So, I mean, but I think they kind of figured it out this time. I think Venom's not a bad one.
Yeah.
Venom's entertaining. So I think Morbius won't be that bad.
Yeah. Off of the disc was supposed to be Morbius. However, they did not have the rights to Morbius because he is technically a Spider-Man villain. And he, like he is now, he was at Sony, and they didn't realize that.
Wow.
But I still think they could have had him off in the like it. Literally, it was just him in like a cloak and a mask, and you couldn't even tell who it was.
Nah, big dog. That legal game is different out here now.
They would have been like. Also, I think the audience at the time would have been like, "Who?"
No, they would have needed one person to say Morbius, and then Sony would have been like, "Hey, where my money at, man?"
Right. They would have said Morbius, and the audience would have been like, "Who?" And they'd be like, from the comic books, like the ones you aren't reading.
Yeah.
Because we're broke. But that's Blade.
You know what though, man? I think like a lot of, and that's why I say like Blade was before its time because Blade created the MCU. Blade showed Marvel that there was money in making bringing these comic book heroes to life. And the funny thing about this, like another reason why I say Blade was like the beginning of the MCU is because how like Stan Lee made his cameos in like all the Marvel movies or whatnot. Yeah. Stan Lee had a cameo in this movie and it was cut.
Yeah, it was supposed to be one of the cops or something.
Yeah, at the beginning where they had the blood rave and everything, he was supposed to be coming in, which I understand the way he does his cameos in the Marvel movies. That wouldn't have fit too well in here. Like you can't make a comic relief moment out. The way they made this movie is pretty damn dark.
Now, this was one of the first superhero properties to have the creators credited at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
However, they did not do that for the last two movies.
They're like, screw it. We're going rogue.
But
I mean, but if you think about it, so if you think about like how the Marvel universe, the MCU is like, and with them having Ali as the new Blade, like if you look at the comic books, man, like Blade leaves a lot of room for opportunity and very exciting things because in the comics he teams up with X-Men at some point. He becomes like a secret agent or secret department for S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point.
Yeah.
Him, Doctor Strange,
him and Moon Knight fight Dracula at one point, I think.
Yeah. Him and Doctor Strange and a couple other become the what do they call it? The Avengers of the Underground or something, like supernatural Avengers.
Which I'm hoping Mahershala Ali shows up in Multiverse of Madness in the Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, that's what because I'm thinking like when you think about phases, you're like, all right, he's coming out in this phase. Where do they bring him in? Yeah. And I'm thinking he has to play a role in like Doctor Strange because that's the only way you can kind of tie him in. But I like when you watch the Blade of '98, you're like, how does this like? Yeah, he's a Marvel comic, but like, how does he tie in? And then like you actually look back and like see how he was, and you have so many more opportunities of things that you're like, well, we might get X-Men guys because I think they finally got Marvel finally got X-Men back from
Fox. They had to buy an entire studio to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Disney did.
But they finally got it back. They're never gonna get Spider-Man back.
No,
but.
Sony
at least is like, we'll play fair, guys,
and end up sharing him forever.
Yeah,
Disney does get the merchandising of Spider-Man. So.
I'm gonna tell you a reason Sony will never let go of Spider-Man because the Spider-Man video games for PlayStation are like a big money maker for, so they'll never let it go.
No.
If they let it go, then that means that Spider-Man will not be exclusive to Sony. Spider-Man will now become Xbox and Sony.
That game was the entire reason I bought a PS4.
Yes.
That was the only reason.
That's the only reason people buy PS5.
Yeah. I mean, if you can find a PS5 by the time it comes out, that'll be the reason why I buy one. I haven't seen anything that I wanted to play on PS5 yet. Spider-Man
is that. But like I said, man, I think Blade opened the universe of Blade opened the Marvel universe for a whole lot of people. A lot of people, like you say, they pay credit to like Iron Man, they pay credit to like Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, stuff like that. The unsung hero, Blade.
But yeah, that's Blade. Go see the new Blade whenever it comes out. I'm sure it'll be good. Larry, thanks for stopping by again.
Hey man, like I said, man, you give me a reason, you give me an excuse. I love watching movies, but you give me an excuse to actually, sit down and watch it for no reason now and actually analyze and critique these things.
So, what would be your final rating? I guess not the final one
for Blade. Okay,
you're watching of this time watching Blade. What would you give it?
Now, this is the thing when you watch movies like this. I like time or era is a consideration of mine, right?
Yes.
So if we look at Blade probably was like one of the first black superheroes that we had after all the ones they had. Like I said, they wanted to make Blade white just because it wasn't the thing to do. Like
right.
we can't have a black lead superhero.
He won't sell tickets.
So that alone, and I think like you say the CGI was bad with the blood and stuff, but I think for the time it came out, it was impressive.
Well, there were other effects in this movie that were very well done. I think that stuff was bad because it was added late.
So I think the CGI parts of it, and for the time that it came out, and for what it was, and and if I even to take out like the symbolism of all the stuff that it brought up, I think the movie itself, if I was going to rate it, I think I'd give Blade an 8.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Blade gets an 8 out of 10 for me. Blade, it gave me everything I needed. It gave me action. It gave me entertainment, and it gave me, it was not one point in this movie I was like, this is stupid. I was like, this is pretty entertaining.
Yeah, this was the first superhero movie, quote unquote, that showed the world and me that, oh, this stuff can make money, and adults will go and watch a comic book movie.
Right.
Because at this point, all I had was like the X-Men animated series and the Spider-Man series, and it was all aimed at kids. All right, that's the end of this episode. Again, Larry, thanks for being on the show.
Hey man, listen, man. If you always you give me a movie to watch, and I'll come back and join. What was my choices? It was Blade, or what else was the other one that you gave me?
Blade or X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix. Okay, yeah. Now I wouldn't have as much fun with that one.
No, I'm doing that episode with another friend at some point because he hasn't seen it yet. I was like,
oh well, that'll be perfect for him to do.
Because it popped up on Disney Plus the other day.
Dark Phoenix.
And I was like,
Phoenix.
That dumpster fire. That makes X-Men Apocalypse look good. But
yeah. Dark Phoenix, man, it has so much potential but whatever, man.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. Come back the next time I upload an episode. I don't know if there's one next week. We'll see. But follow along on your favorite podcast app. Also, if you listen on iTunes, leave a review. Throw some stars in there. Write out a review. It helps the show get more eyes on it. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And if you have a suggestion, send secondtakemoviespod@gmail.com if you have a suggestion. Thanks again for listening. Goodbye.